Speaking of monsters, we have a discussion to have here on the Source Material podcast, and that is a little book called Monsters Unleashed, which apparently there is a Monsters Unleashed from 1973, which I think is it's an 11-issue series with one annual from 1973. Was this a magazine? And it was published by Marvel. So yeah, I mean, like right here, I'm looking at October, the October issue, number 8, Monsters Unleashed, has Frankenstein, and I don't know who that thing is. Also,
my Frankenstein.
My Frankenstein.
I saw that at the con.
Did you really?
I should have bought it. Yeah, but I don't know how much it was. But I did see that because I was looking for Monsters Unleashed at the con. And I only got a few issues of it, nothing to really speak of. Or I was looking for the entire run, and it wasn't there.
Well,
nobody had it, and nobody had your book either, Jesse.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, me and Golden Age Dave were supposed to do an auction report. You know, Golden Age Dave was not there, but I was kind of like his proxy on his behalf on that auction that I went to Friday. And I cannot wait to discuss the amount of comics that I looked through while I was there, the amount of comics that I watched be bought, and then the amount of key issues that went up for sale. I watched a Wolverine, first appearance of Wolverine, Hulk 181, go for $23 or $2,400. That one issue.
Night.
I watched the Spider-Man 129, first appearance of Punisher, go for $850, and that was to a guy that was in the audience with me. So anyway, that'll be coming up here sometime soon. Me and Golden Age Dave are trying to figure out a time. We're going to maybe try and record Thursday. We'll see what happens. But now, tonight, Monsters Unleashed 2017, brought to you by Marvel Comics. Mark Radulich, you tell me, why in the world are we talking Monsters Unleashed this week?
Well, I love a good, comic that features worldwide destruction. But aside from that, who doesn't? Exactly, like you do. When this airs on the Radulich Broadcasting Network, the very next day, there will be a Damn You Hollywood review of the latest and greatest rock movie, Rampage, based on the video game. And it's going to be the greatest movie based on a video game in the history of cinema.
Oh, I don't doubt that.
You can't go wrong with a giant ape, a winged wolf, and some sort of lizard crocodile thing tearing apart an entire city. And then right in the middle of all that mayhem, all that rampage, if you will, is The Rock. So,
yeah, sir, I think you're not taking into account a little movie based on a video game called Super Mario Brothers.
Which featured dinosaurs in some weird way as well.
I would keep.
Who's all rumpy now?
Man, I'm hoping that week, maybe that'll be the week that I can actually use my movie pass like every day for a week. Go hit Black Panther, go hit Pacific Rim, go hit Ready Player One, and then Rampage. Am I forgetting any? Was there any other neat releases that I need to go watch?
Yeah, go be an adult and go see Chappaquiddick.
No, go be an adult with good taste and forget the Chupacabra movie and go see A Quiet Place.
Ah, yes. Robert Winfrey put that out there, and I almost chimed in and said, I wouldn't mind. I don't like going and seeing scary movies either, Mark, but I nut up, and I'd do it for the network.
I sent him that list of what movies we were going to cover and said, is there anything you want to add to this? Because you guys all make it seem like I'm like this horrible dictator, holding, really like I have you under contract or some horrible bullshit. Like, it's not true. Everyone has a choice. Everyone can say no. People have said no before. I sent Robert Winfrey that list before the year even started, and he was like, yeah, it's fine. Offline, not doing a show, shtick free, Robert Winfrey doesn't give me a hard time. And then we turn the camera on, and it's like, whoo, here's a penis in your face.
Here it comes.
I'm Robert Winfrey. This is my dick. And it's like, all right. At no time did you object to any of this or have any feedback to give me. You were just like, whatever.
Whatever, man.
Just bent over and took it. I'm like, okay, whatever.
Okay. That's the limit of sexual euphemisms tonight.
Not even close to the limit.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. As time goes on, I'm clearly going to be proven wrong. Easily. No, okay. So we got Rampage coming up, and so we want to celebrate it by doing Monsters Unleashed. Now, Mark, did you have any idea what you were getting into when you picked this book?
No, I was literally looking for, when I saw that Rampage was good, first thing I did was see if there was ever a Rampage comic or anything like it. And,
oh, yeah, that's right. We were looking for stuff like it.
And then I was like, okay, well, who are the biggest monsters? Well, we've got King Kong and we've got Godzilla and all that stuff. But they have their own franchise of movies. I didn't want to do a Godzilla comic connected to Rampage because Godzilla's going to have its, Godzilla has its own movies, and I wanted to save it for that. So I was like, okay, so what else is out there that features giant monsters wrecking a city? And I just did a Google search, and I looked on Amazon, and I came across this thing called Monsters Unleashed, which was a 5-part series. It was a Marvel crossover. I'm going to assume this was post Secret War.
Uh-huh.
I believe so, because we have 2 Spider-Men in the same universe. So yeah, this is Viv is in this, and then you've got both Spider-Man, you've got Korean Hulk. So I would assume this is.
Can you not call him Amadeus Cho?
Nope, Korean Hulk.
You got the Korean Hulk.
Muslim Miss Marvel, Anyway, girl vision.
The all new, all racist Marvel.
all new, all inclusive.
Oh my lord.
Anyway, so I believe this was one of the crossovers that took place after the Secret Wars, where they combined universes. And it's a very simple story. Out in the Pacific Rim, there are portals opening up in the Pacific Rim, and these kaijus are coming out.
Wait a second.
Wrong thing.
Although
up,
I saw a kaiju from Pacific Rim in this book. There were so many monsters, so many.
No, the real story here, and Jesse's going to go through the whole like nickel and dime plot thing, but basically, a bunch of kaiju, a bunch of giant monsters just started attacking cities, and I was like, okay, well, that's perfect. That's a bunch of monsters attack in Rampage, a bunch of monsters attack in this Marvel series. This is the kind of perfect thing to talk about to synergize with this movie. And I do love a good monster mash.
Sure.
He did the mash. He did the monster
I was going to say, where's the singing?
The graveyard smash. He did the mash.
Okay, now,
whatever happened to my Pennsylvania twist? He did the mash.
All right, damn it. Full disclosure. So we can get Ronnie off the hook and make it so it doesn't sound like we're trying to force anything from Ronnie Adams here. Ronnie Adams did not have the opportunity to read the book because he's been a busy man. We understand that. Don't say anything about the podcast, Mark. Been a busy man. Ronnie, all you get to do is you get to listen to the synopsis, and then I might throw some questions your way, what you think, whatever, whatnot.
Yeah, please
but just feel free to hop in with whatever your thoughts are, and okay. We'll get to it. We will get to it. So, Monsters Unleashed. Now, I want to talk about the creative team real quick because I always do. Number one, I want to give props to the creative team, but we've talked about the writer of this book before. I think, if I remember correctly, Colin Bunn came up during the whole Revolution. Was it Revolution?
Yeah, that one.
IDW's Revolution. I think Colin Bunn wrote that one. So we've discussed that in the past. So we've had the chance to talk about Colin Bunn's work before. I don't think. We weren't too impressed, although it was, it was a fun story being told there with IDW's Revolution. Well, now he has the chance to do Monsters Unleashed for Marvel. I didn't know what to go in here and expect, but he does a fine job spinning a tale. We're going to get to that here in just a second. Now, as for artists, I believe there is quite a rotating band of artists throughout these 5 issues. I know I saw Adam Kubert listed as one, Salvador LaRocca, which is one of the hotter artists today, I believe. There's a few others that are on here that contributed to the story. I didn't have any problem with the art, so just put that right up front. There wasn't really much out there that kind of turned me off to it. It's big 2 Marvel art, and it did a fine job. I like seeing any of the Kubert boys on anything, so I was pleased to see that. All right, let's go ahead and get into the story here. Now I'm going to open up this synopsis with actually just kind of reading the preamble or the stuff right at the beginning of issue 2. And it says, Monsters Unleashed. When giant monsters known as Leviathans Leviathans, start raining from the sky and wreaking havoc all over the world, it is up to the heroes of Earth to stop them. But even working together, the Avengers, Champions, X-Men, Guardians of the Galaxy, and Inhumans might be up against a threat too large to tackle. Wave after wave of Leviathans. And I mean, it's like nonstop. You think it's just one monster? No. I mean, it's got to be at least 100 monsters, if not more, raining down upon the Earth that the heroes got to try and beat. Wave after wave of Leviathans attack, intent on raising the world, and it seems only a miracle can save Earth now. Meanwhile, Elsa Bloodstone tracks down a prophecy about the apocalypse, an apocalypse that involves giant monsters and a king to rule them. And in Missouri, a young boy named Kai Kawade, we'll go with that, Kai Kawade, I know I'm butchering that, Kai Kawade has a mysterious connection to these epic events. So the assault continues throughout the issues until a set of new monsters, one from Marvel Universe past, such as Fing Fang Foom, Goom, Googum, the creature from the Black Bog, my personal favorite monster name of all time right now, which I never knew existed, Timbu Ba, and others appear, and to our heroes' amazement, actually help them out in the battle against the Leviathans. Meanwhile, Elsa Bloodstone tracks down a mysterious key to the prophecy that she is investigating, and it happens to be Kai Kawade himself. Near the end of assisting the Avengers, the Marvel monsters then mysteriously vanish into thin air. Elsa Bloodstone shows up and explains that Kai Kawade has a set of powers allowing him to draw monsters. And when I say draw monsters, he's got a pen and a piece of paper, and he's drawing these monsters, and he teleports these monsters to where he wants them to go. And he's been using these powers to move the Marvel monsters to wherever they are needed. We find that Kai was exposed to the Terrigen Mists. There's your Inhuman link here. The Terrigen Mists, and emerged from a cocoon physically the same, but with these strange powers. With the Inhumans, Medusa, and Karnak on the scene, they explain that Kai's powers are one that has occurred in Inhuman history before. There was once a warrior who faced a similar set of circumstances and a never-ending tide of monsters, but possessed the same powers as Kai, and she used them to battle the Leviathans and their matriarch, the Leviathan Mother. And now it seems that history is repeating itself with Earth in its crosshairs. The Leviathan attacks continue, and under the protection of some heroes while others do battle, Kai continues to draw as fast as he can, but the numbers are becoming an issue. Newly christened by Miles Morales as the Kaiju Kid, Kai soon has to find some courage as the Leviathan Mother has finally arrived on Earth. As our Marvel monsters continue to help our heroes, Fin Fang Foom attempts to defeat the Leviathan Mother, but is easily outmatched. It isn't until Kai is prompted by Moon Girl, it's Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur.
Devil Dinosaur. They make their appearance here. It isn't until Kai is prompted by Moon Girl to draw some monsters of his own making. Using his own creations to battle the Leviathan Mother, he is almost defeated when separately each of his monsters are bested. Kai realizes he is going to need to do something more to defeat this threat. And remembering one of his father's many parables that he grew kind of tired of, one of the things that he remembers his father saying was that 5 fingers can make a fist, or 4 fingers. If you listen to our Metal Hammer of Doom Extra, we got the 4-finger death punch. 5 fingers.
Wait.
What?
It came up. Mark Radulich woefully misquoted the name of the 5-finger death punch band as 4-finger death punch. Quickly corrected himself. So anyway, it's a reference. 5 fingers can make 5 fingers.
Hey, your pig is filthy.
No, nowhere a deep as cut as that, sir. None whatsoever. So his father has said in the past, 5 fingers can make a fist. So Kai frantically grabs his pad and draws a new monster, combining all of his creations into one Megazord, finally defeating the Leviathan Mother. At the end of the story, Kai returns all of the summoned Marvel monsters to where they belong. The Inhumans help Kid Kaiju, his family, and his new monsters, who are still around, relocate to the lost island of Mu, M-U. Well, let's go ahead and we'll start. Mark, I mean, what'd you think, dude?
I want to direct this movie. This needs to be like the next phase of movies that lead to this as like the big Avengers team up movie. Like whatever phase 4 or phase 5 end up being, can we please build towards this? This is fantastic.
This continues to get bigger and bigger.
I love my favorite part about this entire story is that you have all these titans of, these new gods of the universe, all of these superpowered beings. And no matter what they do, no matter how hard they try, no matter how many of them there are, they are still not enough to take down the army of leviathans that are romping and stomping all over the earth. And it comes down to one kid who didn't ask for powers, one kid who didn't want the powers, barely knew he had the powers, and he has to, push himself with the help of Moon Girl to find the hero within and draw. I love the fact that what saved the day wasn't pure muscle, but his creativity.
Mm-hmm.
His brain, his mind, these pictures that came from somewhere deep in his soul are what he used to create a powerful enough being to stop an alien monster from nesting on the planet, raising it, and raising a bunch of her babies, like you do. So
I was going to say this was such wanton destruction. I mean, buildings are being destroyed left and right throughout this whole thing in major cities. It's not just located in New York City. New York City? No, it's all over the world. Dude,
yes.
I went pace salsa. I did. No, it was all over the world. I mean, there was Paris. It was just complete.
Yeah, there was no corner of the earth left untouched by these things. And again, you had all the smartest beings in the universe, the most powerful. You have a Korean Hulk. You have everything. And what? He is Korean.
Shut up.
He ain't just Hulk. He's Korean Hulk. Okay.
Yeah. We have to differentiate between him and Bullet Hole and the Head Hulk.
Oh, okay. All right. Apt descriptor.
The one that was murdered in cold blood by Hawkeye.
Oh, we've had this discussion. Don't bite, Ronnie Adams.
I'm trying.
Anywho, I really enjoyed this. I mean, this was a real page turner for me. There's a difference. See, here's the thing. It's a story big in scope, but it's super simple. There's no baby dark side in this. There's no universe that's collapsing. It was a very simple story ripped right out of the pages of Pacific Rim. There's an alien entity sending monsters to trample the planet, and when they're done, the aliens proper will come and settle on this planet for whatever the reasons they need it are.
Yeah, you don't even dig that deep into the history of why this is occurring in any way other than just that it's happened in the past, it's happening now.
Right, and because really the story is not about the monsters attacking and a bunch of heroes fighting monsters, although that's the setup. The story is about Kid Kaiju, and I thought he made for a very interesting character. He's somebody who I'd like to see portrayed on screen, and have that arc of someone who's like, look, I didn't ask to be exposed to Terrigen Mist. I didn't ask powers. I sure as shit didn't ask for my drawings, my private drawings, to suddenly come to life and start knocking buildings over. I don't want any part of this. And it's like, but you are the key to, if you don't do something, there isn't going to be an Earth left, and he has to, and it's that great, fantasy arc of you have to find the hero within, and step out of your comfort zone and confront all of these uncomfortable things. It's great. It's perfect. It's a cinematic, it screams cinematic wonder. I mean, on the one hand, you have all of this wanton destruction and you have all of these fightings. On the other hand, you have this very personal story about a kid finding the hero within. I loved it. I could have read 10 more stories like this.
I do want to spout out one of my criticisms that I had listed down here, and that was...
There's no criticisms. It's perfect.
Oh, well, yeah, okay, whatever. Kai's powers was one of the things that made my list for criticism, because as much as we were just kind of thrown into this story, I don't need to know everything, but there was a point in which... And granted, this, again, was the introduction of this character. They don't need to throw everything on the table in these 5 issues because, again, it's Monsters Unleashed. What else are we going to get? But there's a point in the issue, I think it's issue 5, where he has his creations that he made actually come to life and they're attacking the mother Leviathan, or Leviathan, the big alien Leviathan mother. And one of them falls down and gets killed. And you see Kai like fall back, and his nose is bleeding. So he has some kind of a psychic link to the ones that he's created. Maybe his powers might have needed a little bit more fleshing out, just to kind of give me an idea. Okay, why is this happening? Why does that happen? At first, I was like, "How?"
It need to be fleshed out now. Is this? I mean, because Kid Kaiju has his own series.
Oh, he does.
Yeah,
surprisingly, I should have known that, because this felt like I put that up to him.
Yeah, when this ended, they started a Monsters Unleashed series. I actually have one of them on my to be read pile, and then there's another one coming out in a couple of months. So that's an ongoing series.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that. Well, you're right. It doesn't have to be all thrown out here. Then obviously they're playing the long game. They're introducing you to the character, giving you a little taste, and be like Mark Radulich. Gobble up that cocaine later on down the line, get you one little fix, and then you're coming back and getting you another trade. I got you there.
I don't use cocaine. I'm too fat to use cocaine.
Ronnie Adams, I mean, I know you didn't read the book, but do you like monster movies?
Yeah, I do. I really do. I mean, I was going to read it, so now I really want to read it, even though we're covering it now. So I want to go back and read it, because I'm a big kaiju fan. I'm a big, Godzilla. I've watched Godzilla movies ever since I was a kid, Mothra and Mechagodzilla and all this other stuff. I've always, had a fascination, with the monster movies and the like, which is one of the reasons I really liked A Quiet Place, because it was about the monsters as well. In that, I mean, they're not anywhere as big as what you see in these movies and Godzilla and everything else. All these all the kaiju movies that are not kaiju, but they're terrifying. It's definitely piqued my interest.
I don't know where the rights are right now, but I can tell you that I was secretly hoping for an appearance by Godzilla in this book. And the only reason I was secretly hoping for that is Marvel did own the right. I don't say own the rights, but they did license, I would assume. I have no idea what I'm saying. I just know they had some Godzilla comics. I don't know if it was a licensing thing.
Cool.
They don't obviously own the property, but I do know they had in 1977. I'm looking at it right now. In 1977, Marvel did publish Godzilla comics, and I can tell you
they had to have had a licensing deal.
Okay, that sounds good.
Outright own the Godzilla property.
Yes, that's where I was going. I could tell you that.
Okay.
It's a strange way of getting there.
Took a long way around, but okay.
There are appearances by Marvel superheroes in the Godzilla comic. So I was kind of like, oh man, that would be so cool. But of course, I don't know where or what Godzilla, if they even want to pay the money to do anything like that. Obviously they didn't, but Marvel at one time did publish Godzilla King of the Monsters. I was a fan of this. I'll tell you right now, Mark, you said it was a very cinematic book, or something that you just love to put on screen. It would be just incredibly expensive to put into movie form, I think. Not just.
Come on. Marvel right now is making $1 billion pictures left and right. You give this thing a budget of let's go on the high end. Let's give it a $4
billion.
Let's give it a budget of $300 million between cast and effects.
Okay.
This movie, it's every superhero in the Marvel universe and a bunch of monsters. That's a $1 billion idea by itself.
Well, if Rampage does well, Marvel might smell something along the lines of there's promise here. There's promise.
There's no way Rampage doesn't do well.
That's the truth.
If Rampage does well, Marvel might smell what The Rock is cooking.
Oh, Mark Radulich, I'll ask you this.
Juice popping in 3D. Sorry, go ahead.
What?
Yes, please explain the reference.
That was a reference to the Holocaust cooking show, as I've mentioned before.
Another one?
I really don't like these references.
Go ahead, Jesse. Ask your question, please.
So does the Man of Steel body count issue come up here with you at all?
No, who cares?
That's what I thought.
I mean, that's the thing. They
All
wreck a
those
lot
lost souls of Metropolis care.
I love how at the end of this, they're like, I mean, at the end, the heroes are kind of standing around the rubble, as you usually would, and discussing what the next move is going to be. And after all this is said and done, they're like, oh, damage control has their work cut out for them. I'm like, no kidding.
They have to rebuild the planet now.
The planet is basically destroyed. And
well, you haven't seen Pacific Rim Uprising, but they kind of deal with that sort of thing where these kaijus ran rampant for so long that a lot of the earth just got flattened, and now they have to rebuild. But, the tides recede, we can rebuild.
Oh, all right. So I enjoyed it. Mark Radulich enjoyed it. Ronnie wants to read it.
Can I talk about the one thing that, other than Kid Kaiju, who I loved in this thing, it was obviously the star of this book. My other favorite character, this is Fin Fang Foom.
Oh, yes.
He is hilarious. We need Andy Serkis as Fin Fang Foom.
Here's the thing.
Listen, I need to ask you a question.
Go.
Where did Fin Fang Foom come from?
He's an Iron Man villain, and then they've used him in the Hulk.
He's an Iron Man villain?
Yeah.
Okay. I just couldn't remember where he came from, whose villain he was.
Well, here we go. I'm on the wiki right now because I was.
No, I'm on the wiki.
No, you are not on the wiki.
I'm on the wiki.
No, you sons of bitches. I'm on the wiki.
First appearance was Strange Tales, 89, 1961.
Created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. That's
notable aliases. He whose limbs shatter mountains and whose back scrapes the sun.
Okay, sure. Yeah, that's a little long.
Outstanding.
It's either that or Fin Fang Foom. I know what I'm calling him.
I'm calling him Jerry.
Jerry.
The character first appeared in the standalone story of Fin Fang Foom in Strange Tales and reappeared in Astonishing Tales 23 and 24. He was impersonated by the Midgard Serpent in Thor 379 in 1987. His first story was reprinted in Fantasy Masterpieces number 2 in 1966, Where Monsters Dwell number 21, May 1973, Marvel Monster Works in 1990. Foom eventually appeared in Marvel continuity in Legion of Night 1 and 2 in 1991. They made multiple appearances in Iron Man, and then they just list a bunch of Iron Man comics, and then Iron Man Volume 3, 15 through 18 and 99. An alternate version appears in Mutant X Annual 2001.
I own most of that series. I haven't read it.
Foom briefly appeared in the intercompany crossover Justice League Avengers number 1. The villain Nightmare changed a creature called the Mindless One into a copy of Foom to battle the Hulk in Hulk Volume 3, number 79, and that was 2005. The character's origins and early days are developed in Marvel Monsters on the Prowl, December of 2005, and Fin Fang 4, December 2005. Foom also appeared in Next Wave, Marvel Holiday Special 2006, Howard the Duck.
That's where I remember Fin Fang Foom from.
Iron Man, Howard the Duck.
Next Wave.
Next Wave. What is that?
Yeah. That's that group of C-listers that they put together. As a superhero team to kind of mock S.H.I.E.L.D.
Okay.
Iron Man Las Vegas, and then briefly in the limited series Age of Sentry. One-shot titles like Monster Size Hulk number 1, Dark Rain Files number 1, featured in another monster one-shot, Fin Fang 4 Return, July 2009, as well as another version in Hulk Broken Worlds number 2.
All right. Now, you missed the inspiration, how Stan Lee got the inspiration for this, okay?
Eating Chinese food?
Close. Writer-editor Stan Lee's inspiration for the character's name was the title of the 1934 movie version of the long-running British stage musical Choo Chin Chow.
Nice. See, you give me shit, Ronnie Adams.
Yeah, I got nothing for that. I apologize, Mark.
Thank you, sir. Apologies.
Choo Chin Chow. Choo Chin Chow.
Ching Ching Chow.
Yeah, absolutely nothing on that one.
20 dislikes.
I'm reading from the wiki. Damn. Okay. Yeah, I was going to kind of echo what Ronnie said there. I don't know much about Fin Fang Foom. I've known he was a character for quite a while. I didn't know he was an Iron Man villain. I thought he was a Fantastic Four villain for some reason. But, well, he's a villain nonetheless, and he would usually show up and give the heroes a hard time. But, yeah, it was fun. He had a bit of an ego in this book, and it was fun to read his Colin Bunn's take on him. So, there were Marvels. I guarantee you, if you were a Marvel monster fan and you followed those Marvel books that Mark kind of listed off there, Where Monsters Dwell, you probably recognized a lot of what Kid Kaiju Kid Kaiju was bringing into this fight. So there's probably all sorts of little Easter eggs me and you guys never had a chance to pick up on. But regardless, it was still a fun story. It's actually a decent story. I think it's told well. It's probably the best Colin Bunn story that we've read so far on the Source Material podcast. So I swear we've done something else that he did as well, but I'd have to go back in there. We're over 150 episodes. I can't even remember a lot of the writers that we've talked about. But all right, so I don't really have much else. I mean, Mark, did you have any criticisms about the book? I know I said bring a criticism if you have one. Did you have any criticism?
No, I really, really enjoyed this. I mean, I'm not going to make up a criticism if I don't have one. I love the fact that it starts with all of these different teams just being overwhelmed and them not knowing what to do. The other thing I wanted to talk about, the thing that I thought was great, was, okay, so now this kid's discovered. They know he has powers. Now everyone's fighting over what to do about him. Like, oh, he's got to be trained. He's fucking 11 or whatever, or however old he is.
He's old enough to be a tag team champion in the WWE.
I don't want to talk about it.
Tomorrow on TV Party Tonight, listen to us rail about some Make-A-Wish kid becoming the.
Yeah, I missed that one.
I may have to be drunk during that podcast. I like the idea that in this world where a lot of the heroes are like codified and put on separate teams, and it's really political how you handle them. Like, as soon as he gets discovered, they haven't even dealt with the threat yet, and they're fighting over how to deal with him. Mm-hmm. And then the mom's just like, he's just a kid. Like, the mom and dad are trying to make sense of his powers and everything else. And the kid is not wazooey about like running into battle to fight monsters. I mean, and that totally made sense to me. This felt very real. Like, if one of your kids suddenly woke up with powers, and they dealt with the same thing with Black Lightning, where the one daughter, when she discovered she had powers, was like, went out and bought herself an outfit and made herself into a superhero. She was all about it. When the younger kid, I don't know how much you guys are keeping up on Black Lightning, but when the younger kid found out she had powers too, she was like, I just wanted to go to prom, get a job, have babies. I didn't want this. I don't want to be a superhero. I don't want to save the world. I don't, I'm like, that's a very real response. That's something that I respect about the writers in both Monsters Unleashed and Black Lightning and whatever they deal with this, is not everyone who is quote unquote blessed with a super ability wants to do it. Christ, not for nothing, but in real life, people who are blessed with outstanding ability not always want to live that life. Mm-hmm. I mean, I see. Yeah.
I chose not to be a supermodel.
I understand. I see big, tall people, and like they don't necessarily gravitate towards basketball or any kind of other athletics. They went and got regular jobs for whatever the reasons are. There were just some people who, I mean, I look at like Kurt Cobain. Kurt Cobain was obviously in Nirvana, and he was murdered by his wife.
Not a popular opinion, but we'll let you continue.
It's the right one. It's not an opinion; it's a fact.
Right.
I remember, towards the end.
Look at you.
Towards the end of his life, I remember reading things, that he the suicide letter was allegedly was actually a goodbye letter to the music industry. He just he'd had a taste of it. He'd had a taste of success, and he realized this wasn't the life for him. He wanted to do something else. I mean, and if that's true, that's just an example of how some people are. So I like the fact that they brought that element into this story of this kid. Like, he had to do what he had to do in order to save the earth, but he wasn't necessarily excited about it. And it was a scary thing. So I liked all of that.
Did you get the sense that his parents knew that he had powers? And because they moved like 3 times. Every time a monster would show up.
Well, they said they said the first time they didn't realize what was happening and they just moved. The second time they realized it was a pattern.
Yeah. All right. I think we're coming to a close on this discussion. I had a good time reading it. Ronnie Adams, you say you want to pick up stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely. For a book I haven't read yet, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
All right. Mark Radulich, closing thoughts.
Loved it. I want to read more like this and less like Baby Darkseid.
I hear you. I hear you. Well, you'll have to let us know if we plan on covering you said you had the next trade ready, right?
Yes, I do.
Well, you let me know if it's any good and if it's something, or if we're going to wait and do that for Rampage 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Nice.
That would be that'd be fun.
That was a good cut, my friend.
One used quite often by me. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been our coverage of Monsters Unleashed. I enjoyed the book as well. So I really not much else I could say about it. Not much else other than just go check it out. It's a fun read. I briefly gave the synopsis, so there's a lot more in there, a lot more meat to the story. We didn't spoil everything, so check it out. Let's go ahead, I guess, and we'll get into plugs. I knew it was going to be a short one tonight because it was just a simple, fun story and a good discussion. So, Mark Radulich, let's start with you, my man. Let's get some plugs going and what we got to look forward to here on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network.
Right now on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network, you can check out our discussion of Ringside Volume 1 as we took a look at all things wrestling this week. It's 2 shows, really, just 2 shows. But source material covered Ringside Volume 1, which is issues 1 through 5 of that series. And then, as I said, we've got a TV party tonight for WrestleMania 34, all 27 hours of it. So we'll talk about the Hall of Fame, we'll talk about NXT, and we'll talk about WrestleMania itself. And then Wednesday on the Metal Hammer of Doom, we will look at Camelot, The Shadow Theory. That's all I got.
All right, very good. Ronnie Adams of the Screaming Boy Podcast. I can mute Mark while you go through these because I have a feeling that Toys R Us
won't help. Won't help.
Go for it, man. What we got coming up?
Well, if you listen to Mark Radulich, I don't do jack. I don't have a life or anything. No, it's something I put off and I shouldn't. But very soon I'm going to have a couple of episodes coming out. One of them being the infamous Toys R Us episode where we discuss the rise and fall of the mighty toy mogul monster.
I like it.
Yeah.
Sure.
I know it's a word.
Toy store.
But of the toy store, Toys R Us, and how it was once part of our childhood and now it is a part of our distant past. Not distant, but yeah, whatever. I'm tired. But no, to Rise and Fall of Toys R Us, it's a fun show. Mark is on it. Totally 80s Pat. Of course, Jesse is there. We got some stuff coming up. I just went to a con on Sunday. Yesterday, as you're listening to this, if you're listening to this live, I should say, it was a 1-day con. It was a lot of fun. No pictures this time. There was no cosplay to speak of that I remember or anything like that. It was mostly just vendors, and it was one of those kind of just simple go in, buy, and just have fun. I got a lot of cool, a lot of 50-cent comic books this time around. Did find a certain pop vinyl I was looking for at a really good price, believe it or not. Actually, Jesse, you might be interested in this. I got a 30th anniversary Jetfire Transformers figure.
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty dope. I enjoy it. I call him my friend. He may view it differently, but I've seen him at several cons. He is one of the co-creators of The Stuff of Legend, a wonderful artist in his own right. And I've seen him at several cons, and he was there. Brian Smith. So the next one coming up is going to be in July. It's going to be Raleigh SuperCon. So you'll expect lots of pictures from that. So we got some stuff going on the Screaming Boy side, and some more shows that I'm working on getting booked and to discuss certain things. We'll definitely have those episodes out within the next couple of days. So we're gonna we're getting it done, no matter what Mark Radulich says.
I apologize if you hear the buzzer in the background. The dryer's on. No, not anymore. Yay! Thank you very much for joining us tonight. My name is Jesse Starcher. Go give the Radulich in Broadcasting Network Facebook page a like to stay up on top of all the great podcasts that we have to offer. My show here, Source Material, is up over 150 episodes. We're pretty much like a book club for comics. So if you want to go listen to any previous episodes, feel free to do so. There's probably some content in there you'd like to check out, a book or something that we've discussed in the past. I would highly suggest getting the book first, reading it, and coming back and listening to us talk about it. That's the fun of this show, is getting to talk about what happens in the book after we read it. So I think that's going to be about it. So for Ronnie Adams, for Mark Radulich, my name is Jesse Starcher. Thank you very much for joining us this evening on our coverage of Monsters Unleashed. Ladies and gentlemen, have a good one.
Your contract requires you to produce, sir.
You remember?
I don't have a contract.
Will that help you get your show up faster?
So,
Why didn't you warn me,
Dragon
brother?
Ball Z porn. It's called Dragon Boob Z.
you got an alert on your phone. I'm curious as to what app is sending you.
I'm not. I don't care. I'd rather not know.
Oh, goodness. Beep, beetle, beep, beep. Hey, congratulations.
For you.
Not doing the work like in a
While you were
corner.
in your own office, were you putting up your own show?
Mark,
I would keep cracking the Toys R Us joke, but I'm really afraid of Ronnie having some sort of like conniption.
You want your episode? It'll be there, Mark. Just be ready.
He's gonna.
not his episode.
I'm afraid that like I'm gonna say it one too many times, and Ronnie's gonna show up with a dead giraffe on my front lawn, going, "Here's your fucking Toys R Us episode."
Jeffrey has paid the price for your sins, my friend.
That's right.
Not like Mark.
You know.
First of all,
Here's my excuse.
before you make a comment about me, why don't you put up the Toys R Us show that's like 8 weeks
Oh,
old now?
damn.
Is he still with us? Okay, he's still there.
I'm just Googling your address right now.
Second of all,
Believe it or not, I know where to get a draft.
I don't doubt it. You know, and if
Get
I
off my
send
nuts about this Toys R Us show.
no, but I sent Robert when
See how easy that was? No.
yeah, see, I
I tried.
Which I want to look this up right now.
The Lost Island of Moo.
It's a bunch of cows overrun by a bovine.
Alien killer cows. Moo.
I want to see because there's
Worst island ever.
oh boy, body counts in the house.
Body counts in the house. Body counts in the house.
What I meant to say was damage control. Damage control's in the house. Damage control.
Now I want now I want there to be a team in Marvel called Body Count. Like they're not there to fix the buildings. They're there to collect the bodies.
And count them meticulously. We have.
By the time you get the show up, Toys R Us will have reopened under a new name. How about that?
That hurt. I am a person with feelings, Mark.
We are here to lament the loss of Toys R Us.
Oh, look, it's reopened as KB Toys.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen.